Thank you, Ian. All right, so I'll call the meeting to order. I think we have a quorum. And our first order of business is we'll do pledge allegiance. 3, 2, 1. I pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Next item on the agenda, meeting minutes from our last meeting, May 19th. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns? I'll take silence as everything's good. James, are you talking? Can't hear you if you are.
So I didn't see any meeting minutes, so I'm not going to vote on this.
Trish, did you get those sent out? I think you did.
We got them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't have a chance to look over stuff.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I got you. Okay. I breezed through them. Everything looks good from my perspective. I'll take a motion to pass those as they stand.
So move.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Hi, Claire. Good evening. All right.
Hi, everybody. Sorry.
No worries.
All right.
Okay. So moving on to grading permits. So first order of business, 29 Ivy Lane. So who do we have from 29 Ivy Lane on the call?
That's me, Bob Miller with Poling Homes.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
How you doing, Seth?
Good. So I have your plans up. If you could walk us through your project. I know that you were before us late last year as well. So if you could describe some of the updates that you had. Obviously, we're looking for replacement trees being taken down, tree protection, how you're getting in and out of the site, things of that nature.
Okay. Presently, the house is completely built. We're roofed, sided. During the process, we encroached upon the 36-inch beech tree, which was on the original plan as being saved. The house, the way it laid out, and the root system of the tree became a dangerous situation. So I contacted John and got a report from an arborist, and he deemed the tree as, after we got done building, that the root system would be compromised and that we would have to take the tree down. So we contacted John, emailed him. He agreed with it. We took the tree down. And we have now proposed the compensatory trees with this Gordoniti plan from Doug McRae. And we are seeking approval of this commission to proceed with the plan and have that be acceptable to replace that not going to replace the 36-inch beech, but with trees. And we're hoping that this plan will suffice.
And can you describe for me where the 36-inch beech tree was on this plan? Is it on here somewhere?
The location of it's not shown on the plan we're looking at, but it is pretty much where your cursor is right now.
Okay.
It was a little bit backward from that. And the overdig of the foundation is where where the root system got compromised.
Understood. And then could you describe where the replacement trees are going and how they're indicated on the plan?
So on the plan, the upper left-hand corner of the plan, there's a list of trees, and the trees that are replacing that birch are the double asterisks. The ones with double asterisks, and primarily they're down the southwest property line, which would be where that beech tree was, that would divide where Murray House is, the open space, and this particular lot.
Okay. And per our formula, so anything 30 inches or larger, 6 replacements, 4 of those being large canopy. Can you and all of us confirm that at least 4 of these are large canopy?
When I did send this to Doug McRae, he's the landscape architect. He did confirm that I think we had 6 that were large canopy. By looking at them, I'm not sure, to be quite honest.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Yes,
So I see the planting schedule and I see 22 required, 22 provided, but I know you were here earlier, but there's nothing that shows what was removed.
what I would have to do is I would have to send to you the original subdivision plan with those trees on it.
Only reason is I don't know if the Shade Tree Commission wants to verify that there are 22 compensatory trees required, and that's up to this commission. I'm just asking the question.
Okay. Yeah, I could send over a plan. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me right now.
Yeah, so those 22 compensatory, those were from the previous
Correct.
approved removals, right? So this is just an amended plan with that new tree being removed.
Because of the beech trees, Jeff.
Right.
Correct.
I asked that they be here tonight.
Sure. So I'm seeing the double asterisks. I'm seeing more than just our required 6. I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 trees.
Correct.
And to confirm, I mean, these trees weren't a part of the original replacements, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so these are new additions.
Some of
I did set to ask Bob to profound on his planting schedule because of the nature of the tree. The tree was very healthy. Approximately 38% of the root system was going to be impacted. And Bob agreed to plant some extra trees in lieu of removing this beautiful heritage tree.
That is good to hear.
So for my own edification, so the previous plan was approved. The only reason he's here tonight is to show the compensatory trees for the heritage tree that was removed.
That is correct.
Thank you.
So my suggestion to the commission would be we should, to Steve's point, get the previous plan that shows the tree that was removed, just so we have that on file.
So hold on one second. I'm gonna send this to Ian so
Mhm.
he can pull it up.
Okay. Thanks, Trish. Before we move forward, does anybody on the commission have any comments or questions?
Is there any reason for shade tree protection to be shown on this plan, or are we past that stage?
We are past that stage. The protection was originally for that beech tree.
Mhm.
There was
Okay.
no other, protection to provide.
Okay, so you're not, there's nothing going on here right now, construction wise.
We're in the finishing stages of the house at this point.
Okay.
And
Ian, I just sent that to you.
the landscape plan that we're looking at has not been executed yet. So this is scheduled to be planted. The trees are scheduled to be planted starting about the 3rd week of July.
Okay, that sounds good.
Got it. If Ian's unavailable to pull it up, I can see if I can dig it up quick, Trish, if you want to send it to me.
I got the email. It's
Ah.
just taking a second to scan, and then I can switch to my screen.
Perfect. Thanks, Ian.
Do we know how many large canopy trees were supposed to be planted on this?
Well, it should be 4 for this new tree that's
For the
That
beach,
was-
yeah, but
yeah.
in total. Because we don't have many, there's not many large canopy trees in the plan. I see the soft-toothed oak, I guess, is 2 of them.
Yeah, I will say we previously approved this.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's why I'm asking, because if there was no large canopy, then these could go towards it. But there was no heritage trees in the previous plan.
I got you.
But we just don't, I think I would recommend that, depending on what the plan was approved with the 4 additional large canopy, I think we should see more in this planning schedule. There's not really, unless somebody sees something else, but the oak, I guess I don't know if we consider, I guess Katsura.
It's a medium-sized tree, yeah.
I'm trying to, they're all medium or smaller sized trees, so I think since there was a healthy tree, we should, there should be some large canopy per the ordinance planted.
Yeah, now that I'm looking through these in detail, I agree. I don't see, for the double asterisks, I don't see 4 really good large canopy trees.
Do you guys still have room on the site for some larger canopy?
We
Mr. Miller?
do, but I believe that if we pulled up the original approved plan, you'll see additional large canopy trees that were, this plan is just indicating what we are intending to plant in lieu of the 36-inch beech. There's large canopy trees that were originally intended to replace the original trees that were taken down from the original plan. So we would have to look at the original approved plan to see the full birth of trees that we are planning.
Can I make a suggestion? So usually we like this, the Shade Tree Commission likes to see the tree table for the whole job.
Okay,
You have Gordon Eady provide, from a combination of the last and this, noting what was removed, what's compensatory, include the beach, note what was from the previous plan, because I think what you're seeing here, they're struggling to determine if the compensatory trees are correct. But since the other plan is from 6 months ago, they have nothing to go back to.
okay, yep, we could certainly do that.
Yeah, that's just a suggestion. I don't know if that's what the Shade Tree Commission wants to do, but that's just a thought.
Yeah, I would
Seems
agree
good.
with that. Yeah.
Yeah, that seems good, Steve.
Ian, how you making out?
Seth, I have the plans ready to go if you want to switch
Okay,
to.
yes, go ahead. Thank you. All right, so obviously this plan is pre-house. Is there a page in these plans that shows? There we go. Okay. Is there a page that shows the beech tree?
So that beech tree is located right where you see the angle of the there's that red dotted line right off the front corner of the house, southwest corner of the house. That is the beech tree.
Got it. Okay. So I think, does anyone have any questions from the commission on this particular set of drawings that we're looking at? Straightforward. I think this should be submitted along with the revisions that we're discussing, which are revise the plan to show the tree table, really digging into the large canopy trees, make those revisions.
Is there a table in this plan here?
On this plan, there's not.
Okay.
There
Was there
is
trees removed?
a table. There's the plan previous to this one
Uh-huh.
shows the trees that we removed. And then there is an approved township plan of the compensatory trees that we proposed to replace the ones, if you keep going one more page. The ones with the X through them is the trees that got taken out to accommodate the original approved plan.
Right. And then there's the tree formula, bottom right.
Can we enlarge that?
So it does look like there were a few that fell between the 19 to 29 inch, which would require 3 replacement trees, 2 being large canopy.
Where are you seeing the 19 to 29, Seth?
Right.
So 20-inch apple, 22
Oh,
inch
got
apple.
it. Got it.
Yep. So 8 being large canopy, so that was with this plan. And then with the beech tree being removed, we would need 4 additional, so that would be 12 in total would need to be large canopy. So the plans that I was seeing, I don't think we saw 12 large canopy in that planting schedule, which I think would be the discrepancy that we're looking at here.
So we would have to take the original approved plan from the township and overlay that onto the plan that we're looking at tonight. And we will do that and resubmit this so you can
Yeah.
see clearly what we're intending to replace both the original and the beech tree with the large canopies.
Yep. Okay.
Just make sure Gordon Eady takes a look at our approved tree list.
Yep.
And Bob, just to be clear, the tree table is paramount. So you're going to have to list what was removed, compensatory trees, what you're proposing. You know, you can make that one big tree table at this point because everything has been removed and nothing has been planted. But that really needs to be a comprehensive.
Yep.
In removed compensatory trees, then there's a section on what's required and how you comply, and that'll make it a lot easier for the Shade Tree Commission to review.
That sounds great.
That's good. Okay, well, I think we have some clarity on direction. Thanks for running through that. So we'll see the revised plans for next time and we'll go from there. Appreciate it.
What would be the next opportunity set to bring this up?
Trish, I think July, do you have the specific date? I can take a quick look too.
I think it's July the 21st.
Okay,
Yes, July the 21st.
we'll get this together and get it over to you and then get on the docket for the next meeting.
That sounds good. Yeah, and the best thing, Bob, to do is just, get it to us as soon as you can so that, we can take a chance to look through it beforehand. And if there's any further revisions necessary, we have the chance to do it.
We'll jump right on it and get it over within the probably next week at some point.
Sounds good.
Actually, Seth, James and I could probably check it off if it seems in order, if you wanted to do that.
Yeah, that sounds good. And just to clarify that, Bob, we do look at plans ahead of time and then, we put it on essentially a consent agenda for the next time. So you would still need to wait for that approval, but, we'll take a look through it beforehand.
That would be fantastic.
Sounds good. All right. Well, thank you a bunch and we'll see you soon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Can-
All right.
Can we all take a vote on this?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing to approve per se, but I'll make a motion, for those revisions to be put in place, and then we'll see Bob next time.
A second.
All right. All in favor of the plan? Aye.
Aye.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right, off to the next address here and project. We have 739 Roberts. Who from that address do we have?
Hi, I'm Heather Gill. I'm working with Joe Gracie of Franklin Engineering on 739 South Roberts Road.
Sounds good. Good evening, Heather.
Good evening. We also have the applicant who is also in the meeting.
Perfect. Sounds good. And I know Matt and James, you were working to review these plans and make some revisions. I grabbed the latest plan that was outlined in your email, Matt. So this is the one I have.
Yeah, Seth, that should show 30 replacement trees.
Okay, great. So Matt, do you want to, actually, before we have you speak, Matt, if we could have just a quick overview of the project. If we could go through the trees being removed, trees being replaced, and access points in and out of the property and any tree protection.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. So this property,
Oh, Heather, I think we lost you for a second. If you can hear me, we can't hear you.
Yeah, it looks like your screen is frozen.
Froze now.
Let me see if I can, through the chat, message her. I think there was also someone else on the line from this property,
The applicant, I think.
the applicant.
Hi, I'm the applicant and I'm on the line, but I think Heather's probably the best person to
Okay.
talk this through.
Is there any chance you could maybe text her quickly? And
Yes,
it looks like she dropped, so she might be trying to
trying
rejoin.
to get back on.
So we'll just
Okay,
give her a minute.
thanks.
For the sake of time, while we're waiting, Matt, do you want to run through any observations and items that you had walked through with the applicant on this?
Yeah, so James and I, when we saw the plan and I did a site visit and we saw the plan, it was missing, the tree, it was missing any tables and it was missing any identification or sizes of trees. So Heather jumped all over it and after we noted that and produced looked at the formula and produced the table that was necessary and then relabeled all the trees on the plan for species and size. And then James noticed that in.
oh, can you guys hear me now?
There we go. Yes.
Sorry, I figured I hopped off my laptop for whatever reason. I'm on my cell phone.
No
So-
problem.
Sorry about that. So just a quick overview of the project, that there's an existing house that's on the site now. We're actually putting a new house in the same spot. We are enlarging it a little bit, but it's basically going over the same, part of it's going over the same foundation. We are utilizing the existing driveways, which has access to both South Roberts and Darby Paoli Road. We are not changing those access points. We're using the same access points. We are doing a new septic system because the existing septic system is not in good working order. Same thing with the well. We're proposing new on-lot septic, on-lot well. We tried to minimize as much as possible the limit of disturbance and grading for the site. We do have stormwater management for the increased impervious for the site. And just, as much as we could limit disturbance and tree removal, we are proposing to take down 6 trees. And we put together a tree replacement plan that included the installation of 30 trees, 12 of which are the large canopy trees. The site is an acre property, so there's plenty of room on site to install all 30 replacement trees. And what we're looking for is approval to move forward with this project.
Great. Thank you for that overview.
Sure.
And Matt,
Great.
I know you were going through some items, so go ahead and continue where you were.
Yeah. So basically, James and I, we signaled to Heather that the plan was missing some key elements that Shade Tree needs to see. So she hopped on it and used our formula for replacement to produce the replacement chart. And like I said before, all the trees needed to be labeled by species and size, and that was done. Tree protection looks fine. James noticed that there's an undercount on the replacement trees, so Heather added the 3 trees from 27 to 30 to make it compliant. So I think it was one of those things that it was a good experience, I think, because we were able to work things out before we saw something at the meeting tonight where, necessary elements weren't in the plan. So,
Very good. Thanks for running through that, Matt. I do see this note, Heather, of owner has not yet selected location of trees. So we don't yet have the planting plan, which I think is okay from our perspective. I just wanted to call that out. But also just wanted to note, there was a comment about tree species, just making sure that if there are any changes, they need to retain being large canopy versus not per the formula. So making sure that stays true.
Correct. If there's any deviation, we will make sure, but on the plans, we picked, make sure there was a combination of the large canopy. And we'll absolutely be picking from, if there's a deviation, we'll come back to the shade tree, but that we're putting forth the type of species and the amount of trees that's required by replacement.
Great, thanks.
Sure.
So I'm seeing 4 total heritage trees being removed. So that would require 4 times 4, 16 large canopy. So just making sure that checks out. And I know, James, you'd already went through this specifically. And we have to ask, those large heritage trees, we highly discourage those being removed, but it seems as if it's a necessity for this project.
Correct. We're putting the new house exactly in the location of the existing house. We're using the existing driveways. We're not touching them. And we need new septic and obviously stormwater to address, peak rate and volume requirements, which we have. So we really try to utilize the existing features on site to the best of our ability.
Okay.
and Seth, just to note that one of the 6 trees is dead.
Correct.
Yep.
So,
The
so
24
actually, yeah.
24-inch tulip poplar. Okay. Do we have a report for that tree?
We don't, but we worked with Mark Bryant of Environmental Management Services, who specialize in identifying wetlands and various landscaping. And he performed a site visit to verify all the tree types, the diameters. He's a specialist who went out on site. And while he was there, he noted that the one tree was diseased. Several of the others were in average condition at best, but there was clearly one that was in poor condition.
Okay. We do require a hazardous tree report for anything that accompanies, any tree removals over 6 in count. So what I would recommend to the commission is that, based off of all of the revisions made, it looks like everything checks out, but we should get that hazardous tree report on file, and it sounds like it wouldn't be a problem.
It would not.
to
And
get
I'll have
that.
Mark Bryan get that to you immediately.
Okay. Any other comments or questions from any of the commission members? Silence is golden.
Good. Let me ask you this. I talked to Matt and Matt was extremely helpful. So Matt, I appreciate that. Assuming we get this letter, to the township by the end of the week, I don't think Steve Norsini had any comments. Would we then be able to obtain an approved permit in the next week or so?
Yeah, I mean, the idea would be we would approve this with that condition. So as long as that, gets in the hands of the township sooner than later, that shouldn't be a problem.
That sounds great.
Are
Just
you,
like
Heather, are you asking for the final approved permit? Is that what you're
Correct.
asking? No,
Correct.
so we can't guarantee that. It's going through our outside engineers. So we have to wait for them to give the final approval.
Okay.
Once that happens, then it'll go to Steve. He will review all of their notes, dot all the i's, cross all the t's, sign off on it. It'll then come back to me, I'll process it and then call you
Okay,
that it's ready.
okay,
And-
that sounds great.
And Gannett Fleming will reach out to you directly if they have comments on the plan that you need to address. So that may be an intermediate step in there.
And one quick thing that we didn't run through specifically was tree protection. Matt or James, did you guys get a chance to dig into that? Did you have any questions specific to that?
It looks fine to me. It's noted
Nice.
with the X's.
With the X's, okay, understood.
I'm good with the tree protection. I would make one suggestion though, is the the hazardous tree report. It should be from the arborist or the company that's taking down the tree if you're doing a hazardous tree report.
Right, by a certified arborist.
Yeah.
So just noting that.
ISA certified. Like
There we
James.
go. Thank you, Steve.
Correct. The only way to go.
Okay, so it wouldn't be from Mark Bryan Environmental Service Management. It would be from whoever is like the
Who's gonna do the
contractor
tree
taking
work.
down the
Right.
tree.
Yeah,
Right, yeah, thanks for that clarification, James. Yeah, it has to be a certified arborist, and anyone that's doing tree service work in the township has one of those folks on file, or at least they should.
There is a hazardous tree report form online, Heather, and that'll
Okay.
outline what you need, the pictures, the requirements, the certified arborist, his number, all that good stuff.
Great.
One question is the hazardous tree, is that being compensated for with other trees or not?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that.
Are you planting trees in place of the hazardous tree or not?
well, I think so. I mean, if you do the math, yeah.
Yeah.
They are.
So yeah, I didn't
Absolutely they
realize
are.
it was a hazardous tree, but I wouldn't require that any hazardous tree report be done, since we usually do that if you're not going to replant. So
That's correct.
just so the homeowner and the you guys know.
That is a good point.
So I wouldn't
but-
hold anything up for a hazardous tree report. Just
I still think we would like to have it on file, though.
Yeah, absolutely. We need it on file.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve with the contingency of getting that hazardous tree report on file. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you so much, and good luck with the
Thank you.
project.
Thanks, Heather.
Thank you very much.
All right, I know we have Eastern next on the agenda, but Eileen asked me to hold that for if she's able to hop on. So if we could go to 250 King of Prussia Road first, and then we can jump back to Eastern. If that's okay with everyone. All right, so who do we have from 250 King of Prussia?
Good evening. This is Bob Tucker from Kaplan Stewart, representing the applicant 250 or BDN 250 King of Prussia.
Hi, Bob, welcome, good evening.
Good evening. The applicant owns the property at 250 King of Prussia Road. We're seeking to construct a parking structure to add much needed parking to this building, which is the applicant is seeking to re-tenant. It was recently purchased. This evening, I have representative of the applicant, Joseph Trainer, as well as our engineer, Alex Tweedy. Alex is going to go through the design of the land development plans, and I think Joe will make a few comments before. So with that, I will turn it over to Joe.
Thanks,
Sounds
Bob.
good.
Thanks everyone for your time tonight. I'm Joe Trainer with Brandywine. As Bob mentioned, we're currently going through the land development submission and review process for adding a parking garage at 250 King of Prussia Road, which is done in an effort to improve an existing parking deficiency on site. There's an existing building there now. It used to be the Penn Medicine facility. We, Brandywine, purchased a property from them after they move to their new facility down the road. As part of modernizing the existing building, one of the things we're looking to do, and really the big aspect to the project, is adding a parking garage to resolve a parking deficiency. As part of that, we do have some trees that need to be removed and replaced, and Alex Tweedy from Land Corps will walk you through the plans. But I also wanted to note that as part of our land development submission, we are requesting a waiver for street trees around the existing building. However, after we received our review letter from our initial land development submission, I had asked Alex and his team to take a harder look at the street trees and really add more trees along Radnor Chester Road and King of Prussia Road where possible to help minimize the waiver, which Alex will also walk you through tonight. So with that, I'll turn it over to Alex, and thank you again for your time tonight. We're looking forward to hearing your comments.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe. The drawing shown on the screen is the original submitted land development drawing from the original submission. So all the trees you see on this drawing are the replacement trees. In the footprint of the garage, you can actually see in red, if you zoom in on those are the trees that are being removed. We have them shown underneath. If you're familiar with the property, those are basically the existing surface parking drive aisles that are there today. So the trees that are being removed are really the parking lot trees that are in the center islands along those parking rows. There are 21 trees total being removed, 20 of which are below the 19-inch standard. And if you go into the bottom right corner, you can see peeking in at the very bottom right corner of the garage, there is one 24-inch tree that is being removed that triggers the next classification for the three replacement trees. So there's a total of 23 replacement trees being proposed for the project. As Joe noted, in discussions with the Planning Commission and with the review letters, there are a variety of landscape waivers as part of the land development application, one of which is a parking lot tree waiver. Since it's a parking structure, obviously we can't plant trees within the parking structure. So there's a waiver for that landscape requirement, as well as a street tree waiver requirement. But in discussion and coordination, both internally and with the Planning Commission, we have looked at places to add additional street trees. And this drawing that you see now is a red line of where we feel we can add additional street trees and the species that we would propose in those locations. With this alignment and the existing trees, this would be 50% this would be 50% of the required street trees. So it would just be a partial waiver for proposing half the street trees and then a waiver to not install the remainder of the street trees. In addition, on this drawing, you will also see in blue, there is some proposed planning proposed as part of the Radnor Trail project that's being constructed now that comes through this property. So there's a variety of shrub planting. There's a steep slope going up to the upper parking lot, if you're familiar with the property, kind of in the middle of the northern property line. So the Radnor Trail construction is proposing that large landscape bed of shrubs. So we located the street trees, in the areas that we feel are open and appropriate after that landscaping will be complete.
Great. Thank you for running through that. One quick question I had on these new additional trees. It looks like there's a few trees already in this vicinity.
Correct.
And this appears to be indicating that, but I'm not seeing the full canopy there. Is this little representation meant to be the existing?
Yeah, that's a very large tree. It almost goes from our proposed to red. That canopy fills in almost that whole area.
Yep.
I
was
have an
just-
aerial if you can share screen, you can see it right underneath the blue bus stop standard. That's the canopy of that.
Got it. So the new tree would be here and then two more right here.
On either
fill-
side of that sidewalk.
Filling in that canopy. Okay.
And then on the upper right, that large green space, that's where we're putting the majority of the replacement trees from the original landscape plan.
Okay.
And then the remainder street trees are just lining King of Prussia Road, down along the rest of the property there.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. Okay. So the tree replacement formula checks out to me. What we just need to verify are the large canopies.
They're all
Matt-
proposed as large canopy.
Okay, yep. I was just drilling into the plant schedule real quick just to verify. Matt or James, did you get a chance to review this in detail? Do you have any questions?
Yeah, the required trees look good. There's only 2 large canopy and they have October glory in there, so they're covered just with that. But one question I do have is the rain gardens. Are they in place of something for some other reason? For like stormwater management?
I don't know that I follow the question, but
So you have rain gardens there. Are they put in place because of stormwater?
the rain garden is our proposed stormwater management feature. We originally had an underground basin, and through the zoning process, there was additional green space desired with this design. So where the rain garden is actually existing parking lot today. We agreed to reduce the total parking yield by 10 to 20 parking stalls through the land development process and converted that underground stormwater facility to additional green space to reduce impervious, convert to a surface stormwater system, which also allowed us to plant some additional landscape material in that green space and improve the aesthetics of that entrance as well as some circulation items.
Right, yeah, so the reason I'm asking that is, this would be for Steve. There's trees in there, in the rain garden, Steve, that are counted in the replacement schedule. So I'm wondering, are they able to be intertwined? They might be able to, I'm just curious.
Yes,
If,
James, that's a great question. So we do ask applicants, I don't know if you've seen rain gardens that are really just a bunch of tiny, small plants that are indiscernible. So we do ask applicants to use plants of varying height, color, width, and if they can plant trees, yes. So those trees can count towards their total tree count. They're not a requirement of the rain garden. But I do have a question for Alex. So there's actually 2 things we're looking at here. The required street trees, that's one requirement. And then the required compensatory trees for those trees being removed.
Correct.
And so can you step me through that for my own edification? So how many were required?
Yeah,
So
so
that's your partial waiver of 50%?
if you go back to the original, can you go back to sheet 1 of 1?
Yep.
So what's shown on this original plan, this is replacement or compensatory trees only. So this is 21 trees removed, one of which is the 19 to 29. So that bumps it up to the 3 required trees for that. So it's 20 under 19 inch and then 1 over the 19 inch. So there's 23 total trees required. So what you see here is the proposal for those replacements. And the way our landscape designer did it was there's 17 shade or large canopy trees. Then she did 6 ornamental trees and actually did a 2-for-1 quantity for that and only counted an effective 3 towards the replacement trees. And then did 30 shrubs at a 10-to-1 ratio. But I actually believe the 6 ornamental trees, since only 2 are required to be large canopy, I think we really from a formula standpoint, we get credit for the 17 shade and the 6 ornamentals for the 23 replacement. But there's some additional shrubs and we overplanted the ornamental trees.
So
for that
if you, again, so I'm going to tell you it's for my edification and maybe it'll help the Shade Tree Commission. So right now we're going over the compensatory trees for those removed, which
Correct.
is different than the 50% of the trees required for the street trees that you're only going to, you're going to put 50% in.
That's the second sheet. So I'm doing them one by one. So
Right.
correct.
So let's go over your plant schedule again, just for my benefit and anybody else that's interested. So we have 9, 10, 17 trees that are shade trees.
Correct. So that's a red maple, scarlet oak, bald cypress, and Zelkova for the shade trees. And then we have 6 additional ornamental trees, which are eastern redbud and sweet bay magnolia. And then we have 30 shrubs, which are in the rain garden, and those are red twig dogwood, inkberries, and winterberry hollies.
Okay, so just for the shade trees, so the shrubs are ornamental, they're not part of the count, but the shade trees and ornamental trees do comprise the required compensatory trees, 9, 10, 17, 20, 23. Okay, sorry for any slowdown there. I just want to make sure I'm up to speed and everybody else is.
Correct.
So then we go to the street trees.
So then can we go to sheet 2 for that? So, and let me pull up the math I did for that. So for King of Prussia Road street trees, there's 640 feet of frontage. So with 31 per 30 foot, that requires 22 street trees to be required. There's 7 existing trees along King of Prussia Road. The Radnor Trail is planting 1 tree. You can see right by our entrance in the corner. And then we are proposing 3 additional as shown on King of Prussia Road. So that equates to 11 total trees out of the 22 required. So that's half of the required street trees on King of Prussia Road. And then similarly for Radnor Chester Road, it's 415 feet of frontage. At the 30-foot spacing is 14 required. There are 4 existing trees and we are proposing 3 more for a total of 7, which is 50% of the 14 required. And this math is spelled out in the lower left corner of this markup if you guys want to look at that spelled out as opposed to my explanation.
So Steve, are trees that are already in place, they're able to be counted towards that part?
So, I mean, Mr. Tweedy noted this is a partial waiver. So this is a waiver request, whether it's partial or not, it's a waiver.
Right.
And that's solely at the discretion of the Board of Commissioners, if that waiver is granted. So I want them to make sure that the Shade Tree Commission understands it and opines on it. But in the end, when they go through the land development process, they're going to be before the Board of Commissioners, and they will be the one to say yay or nay on the street trees. So I think their argument is, why should we cut down healthy large trees to plant smaller trees? I'm not speaking for the applicant, but that's what they're saying.
Yeah, that is exactly what we would say. So Steve was accurate.
And Alex, just another point of clarification, your red line, this adds trees along the street in every location you see currently feasible, utilizing the existing space we have and taking into account all of the existing trees as well.
Yeah, if you
and
go back
other
to that
plantings.
aerial, if you go back to that aerial there, everywhere we're proposing the 3 trees on both frontages are the pockets we discussed. So we already covered Radnor Chester Road, the 3, 2 on either side of the sidewalk and 1 at the corner. Then the green space is full with our replacement trees. And then starting on the King of Prussia Road, we have this isolated cul-de-sac parking lot. So we're putting 1 additional street tree in that landscape island right by the entrance. 1 in the the 90-degree angle where the parking ends and it goes just to drive through. And then on the upper right corner of the cul-de-sac bulb. And then everything east of that, you can see there's already existing mature canopied street trees already separating King of Prussia Road from our parking lot. And then right at the entrance, Radnor Trail is actually planting one tree right in the very small open area that's available there. So that's already being covered by the Radnor Trail plantings. So we feel that that fills in that whole frontage and can't, we plant it everywhere where we feel appropriate, you know, combined with what Radnor Trail is already doing for their landscape package.
So one quick comment, speaking as a resident, as you can tell by this blue dot, I'm currently sitting in my home office and I can actually see the building from here. I would love to see, I know there's shrubbery here, but it almost looks like we could squeeze in some large canopy trees to further that canopy down this street. I know, you know, during the evening, there's some bright lights that shine from the building. It would be great to shade that view. I still feel like there might be some room to wiggle in some more street trees here.
Yeah, we looked at that and talked about that internally, and we expected to discuss that tonight. Those shrubs are currently there as parking lot screening and headlight glare screening. We did look at the feasibility of that. I think that's something we're open to, but what we believe is we would have to remove a shrub and replace it with a tree. So if we did once every 3 shrubs or once every 4 shrubs, we feel we would have to take out one of those shrubs and put a tree in its place. Because it's a continuous shrub row all the way.
Sure. Understood. You know, I would like to propose to the commission. I mean, I would trade a shrub for a large canopy tree. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah, are they burning bush in front of there too? Is that what they, I mean, it's not like a great shrub or anything, right? We're not losing anything good. Yeah, I would agree with you, Seth. And you guys could actually plant some, like an oak tree, like green pillar or something. Get a couple of those that they would make the residents probably pretty happy. If you don't have much room, they kind of grow up straight up. Liquid ambar, slender silhouette is another cool tree. They'll reach like 30 feet and block that building pretty good. And you could fit them in between.
What was the second one you said?
Slender silhouette. If you don't have much space in between the building and the sidewalk, it doesn't look like there's much. That's why I'm suggesting that. If you have more room, then
If we took out a shrub, I think the landscape area, the shrubs are pretty large. If we took out a shrub and replaced a tree, I think we could fit a pretty standard tree there, but I'll review that with the landscape designer.
I do want to make sure we're cognizant of the headlight screening comment.
I
But
mean, it'll open that up if we remove a tree and remove a shrub and
Right.
replace it with the tree. So that's the trade-off.
I can say that along that corner, let's go down Memory Road here for a second. I don't think that will impact too much. I know this property has green giants planted in front, so that would be screened. And the walls right up the street. So, you know, I don't think that would cause too much of a concern or harm to the folks along the way. And Steve, just one point of clarification. So from a street tree perspective, to your point, the final approval is with the board. Really, our purview in this is really a recommendation for revision. It's not necessarily a straight approve or disapprove like we do with removals and replacements.
Well, I think you are going to approve or provide either way. I mean, the ordinance reads you folks do approve, but the reality of it is the land development plan or even the grading permit has a whole nother process to go through. So the Shade Tree Commission is one portion of that, but you are an advisory board.
Sure.
So what I would request is maybe when you call the vote, Seth, say, are we okay more or less with the compensatory trees for those trees to be removed? That's item A. Item B, do you recommend approval on the 50% planting of street trees? So there are two items, and then I'll include your minutes, the Shade Tree Commission minutes, in the packet that eventually goes to the Board of Commissioners.
Sure. Okay. So it sounds like two votes are in order, just to keep things clear.
Can I just ask one thing? Steve, could you also include a link to this meeting so and like a timestamp so the commissioners could watch this discussion as well?
Commissioner Borowski, if I could, I would, but I know a person who can. I can do a link, but the timestamp, that'll be tricky. No, we will definitely do that.
All you need to do is say when the discussion starts.
Just
Meeting.
what
Yeah,
time
so
on
it's
there?
just-
Oh, even I can handle that.
So like, 10 minutes in, or I'm not sure
Oh,
how
that
far
I do
guys
all the
are.
time. That's no problem.
Just so no one has to they can go right to it. It's sometimes that I think it's helpful, and I know I always appreciate knowing the recommendations of our boards and commissions before.
That's a great idea. We will do that.
Thank you.
And Ian Property already has it done.
And one quick clarification too, from a tree protection perspective. It looks like there's some indicated here, but if we could just quickly hone in on that for a minute and call that out. Is there anyone on the line from 250 that wants to specifically talk to tree protection?
Alex, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, we can speak about it. The limited disturbance is clearly shown. Basically, this garage has very little earth disturbance outside the footprint of it. We are basically cutting foundations into the existing parking lots, building the columns and setting the parking structure above those walls. So you can see the limited disturbance is shown as to basically the foundation excavation. And then, we go vertical from there. Obviously, the majority of the trees that are removed are in those islands in the dead center of the parking structure today. So the only trees that are really being preserved around the perimeter are on the south side, all the way up against the ring road. And then the existing parking lot trees adjacent to the rain garden. And the rain garden is pretty much just an expansion of the existing landscape strip down the center, and then excavating out the rain garden. So that will be minor excavation in that area, just to basically saw cut out the pavement and dig out the depth of the rain garden.
Okay.
I ask a question. So there's currently a demo permit was issued. I know they're heavy into the interior demolition of the building. So assume, for the sake of this discussion, assuming you make it through the land development process and that Brandywine Realty begins its upgrades to the building. Number one, I assume the trees would be last. And when they do those upgrades, and maybe for Mr. Trainer, would tree protection be needed at that time for whether it be for scaffolding? I would say high lifts, but it's not a very high building, but they still use lifts all the time. Would anything be required at that time?
I don't believe we will, Steve, as we're going through the reskin. But I think, we'll be submitting a building permit for just the building renovation, replacement of facade and other mechanical work, replacement of the roof and so forth. And obviously we'll do a pre-site meeting with our general contractor and township staff to review logistics. I don't believe we need I don't believe there's any concerns for existing tree protection as we're performing that work, but we'll certainly address during that pre-site meeting.
That'd be great. So that's something that could be done in the field if it's so needed. And your building inspector, if that's Andy Pancoast or our site inspector, which we will have on the job, you can address it with them.
Excellent.
There is no tree protection on this plan, correct?
I think what's listed is the limit of disturbance.
Yeah, we show the limit of disturbance, which we use synonymously with. We can add a note that says tree protection will be, shall be shown along the limit of disturbance line. Is typically how we handle
Yeah,
it.
that's what we always ask our residents to do. So I think it needs to be on the plan, and I have no problem with, redoing the plan with it on there. But you have trees around, existing trees around the building or the parking, whatever that is that you're going to be working on, and that needs tree protection.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay, before we call a vote, does any other commissioner have any questions on page 1 or page 2?
At the end of the day, how many stories is this parking garage?
It's 2 stories, 3 levels.
Okay, thank you.
It's surface parking plus 2 decks.
Okay.
And sorry, guys, one last question, because I'm kind of confused. We're voting on the street trees. That's what you said, Seth, right? For the
So I'm
second
gonna
part?
call 2 votes. One is the tree removal and replacements, which we confirm checks out. And then the second vote is going to be based off of the street trees, understanding that they're requesting a waiver, but we did talk through modifying the plans, taking a second look at taking some bushes out, putting in some large canopy trees. So 2 votes, 2 separate approvals, if you will.
Okay, got you. Thank you.
Mhm. All right, so I'll call, I'll
Public
make a
comment?
motion. Yes. Public comment, sorry. Ian, is there anyone raising their hands for public comment?
Seth, I'm not seeing any hands raised for public comment.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ian. And just if there's anyone listening in for public comment, if you want to have a comment, just click the raise hand button in the Zoom application and we'll make sure you're heard. So I'll make a motion to approve page 1 of this plan, which is the tree removal and replacement formula plan, with the caveat that we get the plans updated with tree protection. And those plans, make their way back to the township to be on file. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so moving on to the street trees. For those that are aware, through the zoning board previously, there were a set of variances approved. So we have to be cognizant of this project. I think at the end of the day, in summary, we have a larger oversized building on a small lot that through zoning is where we're at today. So I think we also have to take that into consideration. And maybe Alex, just for the clarification of the commissioners on the phone, if you want to clarify what I just mentioned around the zoning history of this building and where it stands today.
Yeah, the property was built originally in the 50s when it was zoned a different property. It was an existing building and then rezoned to PLO. That created a variety of existing nonconformities, from building coverage to lot size to setbacks, etc. And then as part of the zoning process, we were granted 3 variances for setback of the parking garage. You can see it's tucked in the back right corner away from the major roadways, but in close proximity to the property lines. But those property lines are really an internal property line shared with the Ring Road and 259 Radnor Chester Road. So there was setback relief granted for the structure to be tucked in that back corner. Building coverage variance, since the parking structure, though it's not a building, the calculation requires the calculation to be done for buildings and structures together. So the parking structure counted towards that building coverage requirement. So there was a variance granted for that, as well as minimum landscaped area, or, conversely, impervious coverage. There's a slight increase to impervious coverage on the lot due to the minimum, or the size of the parking garage, which we minimized to the smallest footprint possible, but there was relief granted to slightly increase slightly increase impervious and therefore decrease minimum landscape area on the property.
Sure. Okay. Thank you for going through that. So given that, we're requesting some changes to the plans, what I would recommend is we table this so that there's time to make those revisions. That way we can see the exact updates, and being that, this is a waiver request, that would bump that 50% up or down, whichever way you're looking at it, in the positive favor. And, I would push to really take an eye at what we can squeeze in here as far as street trees are concerned. So anyone have any comments on that from the commission?
I think that makes sense, Seth. Just seems like the right way to go with this at this stage. And I mean, planning commission heard the applicant, and we tabled as well because we wanted more details on the traffic studies.
Sure.
So they're coming for us with that, with a walkthrough of that. So I think that makes sense what you just said.
Okay. Any other comment?
I would just say, if more street trees are required, that we should, I think there's plenty of room to plant more trees without hurting the existing trees that are there. So I would recommend more street trees if it is required.
Great. Okay. So let's, I'll make a motion to table this with the proposed revisions, trying to get as close to that, requirement as possible. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Well, thank you so much for going through this, and we'll see you soon. Much appreciated.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
All right. I think I saw Eileen's face pop in. So I'm going to hand the baton to her if she's still on.
Good job, Seth.
Thank you. She shot me a text. Let me text her back real quick. Just shot her a message. We'll give her a minute. While we're waiting, is there anyone from Eastern on the line to chat through plans?
Yeah, so we've actually got a whole team. This is Dave Falcone. I think I just turned on my screen here. I did. Great. We've got a whole team here to present to you guys. You have seen us before. We are unfortunately back to you as a result of some relief that we sought from the zoning hearing board with respect to slopes, and we were unable to obtain the necessary relief there to move forward with our prior plan, which again, you all had seen, the planning commission had seen, the county planning commission had seen, and the board of commissioners had all seen. So we were before the zoning hearing board last month, actually for the last couple of meetings, seeking a variance to disturb some slopes on the property that are man-made, although they are quite old. And the township's ordinance does not make provision for man-made slopes. Instead, it deals with slopes that were created as a result of obtaining a grading permit or part of that process. And because these slopes predated that process, we couldn't satisfy that need. So we went to seek relief for that prior plan in order to build the 20 homes we had intended to build with that plan and in accordance with the prior landscaping plan that you had seen. The zoning hearing board did not grant the relief that we were seeking with respect to those slopes, and we had to go back to the drawing board in some respects. We ultimately did receive some relief for just the slopes coming in on the existing parking lot. For any of you that had been to the site, there's an existing parking lot that sits right in the middle, and there's some slopes that kind of border that. The zoning hearing board did give us relief to disturb those slopes, but the other slopes that kind of exist around the homes that are out on the site today, we did not obtain relief for those slopes. And as a result, as well as in communication with some of the neighbors, we reduced the density on the site from 20 homes to 18, but also designed to an R1A criteria, as opposed to the prior design, which was to an R2 criteria. And you may recall that part of the reasoning and the thinking behind the design of the R2 was not driven by density, but instead was driven by lot size, so that we could keep the lots smaller and disturb less of the site, specifically disturb less trees. When we had to increase the size of the lot to meet the R1A requirement, it pushed the kind of property wider, the development wider. And as a result, we are disturbing a couple of additional trees, some additional trees on the site. And we still think we've got a great plan here. This applicant in particular is extremely sensitive to trees and to natural conditions and to plantings. And they've got Jonathan Alderson and his team retained to work with them. And as a result, we're in front of you tonight with a new landscaping plan, one we're still very proud of, but one that's different from the last plan that you've seen. And that's just a little bit of history as to why we're back here. We did like our prior plan. We like this one too. And we are hoping that you guys will as well. So what I'll do is I'll first turn it over to Rob Lambert, who's the engineer for the plan. And then ultimately we'll turn it over to Jonathan, and he can explain specifically what we're proposing here for plantings and so forth. So if that's okay with the commission, I'd like Rob Lambert to kind of step up and give a little additional color to the plan and why we're here.
Great, sounds good. Eileen has joined us, so she'll take over for this review since she has some history there, and I'll let her take it from there.
Greetings, everybody.
Alan.
Oh, are we good to go?
Yep.
Yes. Okay, Rob Lambert here, the Site Engineering Concepts. What's up on the screen now is just the existing conditions plan with the trees that are being removed shown on this plan. And I don't know if you can flip to the proposed plan.
I can. That's page 2.
Yes.
Got it.
There we go. And so I think we went through this plan pretty extensively at the last meeting, where we actually garnered your support for the application. And the cul-de-sac actually lines up with each tree right on the bottom side of the page. And so it's kind of an extension of that, trying to extend the grid pattern that's in that North Wayne neighborhood. What this plan did, is I think Dave eloquently described, was the big change to this plan is that we have 30,000 square foot lots. As a result of that, the lots along Walnut became a bit bigger, and the lot that used to be along Radnor Street Road between 5, what is labeled 5 at the corner of Walnut and Radnor Street, and there's actually it's 6, but it's unlabeled, at the corner of our new cul-de-sac and Radnor Street Road. There was another lot in that location. And so you can see Jonathan's office has put in a lot of trees in that area, but that was actually a lot in the previous iteration. And there was a lot between 7 and 8. So where we have along the south side of the cul-de-sac, or the right side, looking at this image, there was another lot in that location when we had the previous layout. And then going around on the plan, the lots that are on the north side became a little bit bigger, again, to meet that 30,000 square foot number. And so the lots that are closer to Eagle Road actually pushed closer to Eagle Road. And so everything really just spread out by creating that 30,000 square feet. As Dave said, it's really, I think it's really still a really good plan, and you can see the amount of landscape that we have. And Jonathan can describe the landscaping more in depth, but that was kind of the general layout of the changes in the layout. I'd be happy to answer any questions on the layout or just turn it over to Jonathan for the trees.
Rob, if you may, can you just profound a little bit what the changes are going to be made in terms of the large canopy trees?
So there are a few more removals, and again, I'll have Jonathan identify them specifically. But the removals are really a result of preserving the slopes that we're not allowed to touch for zoning. There were some slopes kind of almost near lot 1 that pushes that house a little bit more forward. There was an existing dwelling there that is being removed, and there's slopes around that that we were unable to get relief for. So there's lot 14 is in the bottom left. The house had to shift again a little bit closer to Eagle Road because there's a little piece of steep slopes that we had to work our way around. And so really it's the slopes that are pushing the houses that impact the trees.
Thank you.
I'll turn it over to Jonathan at this point.
Good evening. I'm joined tonight by Jesse Forrester. So we're both going to present the plans. If you could go back to the first plan, which is the existing conditions. And by the way, we do have the tree report from Jim Ward, and that report you should have already had from last time, and everything about that report is still pertinent to this submission. There are, in the prior plan, there were 176 healthy trees that were to be removed. And in this plan, the number has jumped up to 197. Of that, there are 8 heritage trees that are going to be removed. And one of those trees is a large maple. In fact, we had Jim Ward out to it. It's in sort of on the upper side close to the stream. That's marked as a 72-inch maple. It's actually closer to a 60-inch silver maple, and that's the largest tree that we're planning to take down. There are 307 replacement trees, and that's on the second sheet. You'll see all of the trees that are being added as replacement trees, along with street trees. So there's a total of 384 trees that are going to be planted on the property. Along with the lots being larger, another good aspect to the new plan is that the houses are actually further back from the stream. So on the prior plan, one of the houses was actually around about 40 feet from the stream, and now the closest house to the stream is at 72 feet. So there's a lot of good aspects to the new plan, outside of the fact that we are taking down more trees. So it's I think there's going to be more opportunities for landscape, and as if you can see from the next sheet, we are planting the property heavily. With this extra room, we have been able to get all of the replacement trees on the property rather than having to send them off to another part of the township. I think that's basically it. Everything from as I said before is exactly the same. It's just the fact that we've had to spread these houses out, and accordingly there's more disturbance, and because of that, these additional 8 heritage trees are going to have to be removed.
I have a question, Jonathan, for you, and also one for Dave. Is there any possibility that some of these replacement trees could be bigger than what we require, just to take sort of the sting out of losing more heritage trees?
In the past, and this maybe is a question also for John, maybe there's a possibility that we could reduce the number and increase the caliper size. We've done that in the past. I don't know if you'd be willing to think about that.
I don't think Matt's asking for a reduction. I think he's asking for the count plus additional large trees, I believe. Correct, Matt?
That's correct.
Yeah, we'd have to check with our client on that. We can talk to you about that.
And then Dave, a question for you is like, if this was a perfect world and you could pick one of these two plans, which one would you pick?
I think they're both good plans, Matt. Obviously, we liked that first plan. That's why we went forward and sought the relief to build that plan. But we also went back and spent a lot of time and tried to get this plan in a place where we were just as happy with it. And that's kind of not just bluster, right? That's dealing with a client that cares a lot about what this place looks like and what they're planting and what they're doing kind of long term. They think this is, a good plan. And on top of that, I can say, in particular, as you know, Matt, this applicant has been working very closely with the neighbors here to try and get a plan that is more than just okay to the neighborhood, one that's good and they're excited about. And I can tell you that the neighbors are excited about this plan. So from lots of different perspectives, and one of which is the planting. So
right.
Yeah,
I like all my kids the same, Matt.
Yeah, my point, I guess my point is that, and everyone should understand this. This was not you and your clients and your team. This was not something that you brought forth. This was something you sort of, right? You know what I mean? It's like
absolutely, yeah. So to your point, right? I didn't understand the question. We did not go back after having been through this commission, through the planning commission, the board of commissioners, and the county, and say, you know what? Let's find a way to take down some additional trees and change this plan. We want to find a way to do something different. That was not the plan here. We were really happy with our prior plan. As you know, a lot of effort went into that plan. A lot of money was behind that plan, and we were really happy with it. This is specifically resulting from the fact that we did not obtain relief from the zoning hearing board. That's why we're back to you tonight. It was not an applicant-driven change.
And I will also note that I today. I watched the zoning hearing board meetings when you were before them, and it was very obvious that the neighbors are much in favor of this second plan as well as they were the first.
That's right.
Matt, to answer your question again on the sort of sizing up some of the trees, I think we can do that probably on the cul-de-sac. We could size up a few of the trees that run down the cul-de-sac just to give that sort of more immediacy from maybe from the 2.5 inch caliper to a 4 inch caliper.
I was just going to say 4 inch would be great.
Okay.
And can we go back to the first sheet and can we talk about the trees that are being removed? In particular, the heritage trees.
Yeah, on the plan there, we've got them all accounted for. On the prior plan, there were 17 heritage trees to be removed, and now we're up to the 25. They're in two approximate areas. One by the stream, you can see that one that's marked at 72 inches. In fact, that's we had Jim Ward out today to take a look at it. I was hoping he was going to say something like the trees dying, and don't worry about it, but he didn't say that. But he did bring up the fact that it's actually he measured it and it's closer to 60 inches in caliper. It is a silver maple, which, if it were a red maple, it would be even worse from my perspective. But that's a major tree. And then there's another grouping.
Hey, Jonathan,
yeah.
Where is that tree?
The 72-inch maple is on the left side, sorry, on the right side of the where you're looking at it now, close to the stream and the ghost road. So if you run down to the right with your cursor and down the sheet,
Oh, I see.
you can see.
Seth, would you mind if I drove the screen?
Yeah, sure, by all means.
Okay, yeah, I'll pull it up on mine.
This is Jesse, by the way.
Oh,
Hi,
okay.
Jesse.
He's technologically more adept than I am. That's why he's here tonight. Not only that, he's also a really great landscape architect.
All right, can you all see my screen? Oh,
Nothing
just a
yet.
sec.
Not yet. Yeah, it's loading.
All right, you should see it now, I think.
Yep.
All right. So this is Walnut Avenue where my cursor is hovering now. This is coming around the bend. North is to our left. The 72-inch maple is right here on the corner.
But it is just about, it's 60 inches rather than the 72.
60-inch maple, yes.
And then do you want to explain where the others are, Jesse?
Yes, the bulk of the high quality heritage trees that we encountered in our initial evaluation was here lower left side of the plan. So this would be northwest corner of the site. So Radnor Street Road is at the bottom of the sheet. Eagle Road to our left. So Valley Forge Military Academy is over here where my cursor is, kind of give you some context. So this is kind of the top of the hill of the site. There were many great oaks up here, and we've strived to the extent possible to protect as much as we can of this grouping of oaks up in this area. We lost more oaks up here in the new plan, partly because of what Rob was talking about, where our lots sizes needed to get bigger. The houses needed to be pushed further apart. And so we wound up with a house in this vicinity where we did not have one before. The other complicating factor is that we need to site our roads and our buildings in a way that dodges any of the steep slopes, not counting the steep slopes associated with this parking lot. So even where we have steep slopes associated with the building of some of these existing buildings, we need to avoid those. So this is where we ran into a number of additional heritage trees that needed to be removed.
But it's important to point out that we're still saving a significant number of the heritage trees on the site.
We are.
There's a lot of work that's gone in since the last plan to really make sure that Rob Lambert's done a great job in terms of minimizing the grading and making sure that we saved as many of them as we could. So
do we have a number on how many are being saved?
Yes, it's on the,
I can't see.
Yeah, it's on the next sheet. I think we've got oh, it's on this sheet. There we go.
There's the trees preserved number.
Oh, excellent. Okay. The reason I'm asking is because I am a little bit sensitive, and as a commission, I'm sure we all are, is that if there's going to be some removal of trees in the Fenimore Woods section of the park, which is very close to this, that's just kind of a lot of canopy loss in a condensed area. I just wanted to bring that up.
Yep, good point, Claire. Yeah. So it looks like overall you're taking out about 35% and leaving about 65% of the heritage trees.
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
And I had sent out a memo this morning. I had done some canopy measurements, and those three houses, 14, well, I don't have the numbers in front of me. 14, 15, and 18 reduce about 3 acres of mature canopy out of the 18 acres. So it's a concern that we're losing a lot of mature canopy.
And how much?
Those three
canopy,
homes.
Frank?
Pardon
So
me?
talking-
How much canopy, Frank, in your estimate?
Those three houses, we lose about 3 acres of canopy out of the 18. So we go from like 54% to 38% canopy for this property. Just to support what Claire was saying.
You'd probably have to factor in the new trees in order to get an exact measurement of canopy, how much canopy will exist after the project is finished.
Well, I thought about that, Matt, and I didn't think a 2.5-inch tree would provide that much canopy in the near term.
I just like to say that, you know, a lot of this site right now is paved over. It's a car park. And that is going from a car park to, those trees are going to make a difference. Right now you've got a property that's, I mean, there are some beautiful trees which we've tried to save as many as we could. But outside of that, you've got lawn and car park. It's a virtual desert out there right now. And our client is putting in 384 trees onto this property. It's got support from all of the neighbors. All the deciduous trees are natives. We do have some evergreens that are non-natives. We've got a client here who's really concerned about having this feel like it's part of the fabric of North Wayne, and wants this to sort of seamlessly integrate into North Wayne, and has support of the neighborhood, and has done a really brilliant job. We've got tree protection around all of the heritage trees that we're saving. It's just unfortunate that we're having to come back to you because of this one point from zoning, but I still think this is a great plan. I think it's, you know, we've been typically, you know, when we're taking down a lot of trees on the site, you can't get them planted back onto the site. So here's the benefit. We've got larger lots. We've got the opportunity to get all of these trees planted on this property rather than having to donate to the Shade Tree Fund. So I think this is a tremendous plan. And when you look at what you've got there right now with that large, great car park, this is a significant improvement to that.
Follow up on that for a second, Jonathan, is this plan actually has less impervious coverage than exists today. And so a lot of the times when you talk about tree cover and canopy, it's really a lot of times driven from, at least my perspective, a stormwater management question. And so right now we have more impervious with no stormwater controls that have direct runoff downstream. So not only are we reducing the impervious coverage, but this site will have full stormwater controls for all the impervious that we built. And so you were actually getting kind of a double benefit through this development.
Yeah, I must admit, I am pleasantly surprised to see that at least you're staying away from the perimeters, which are the heavy, dense areas of trees near the stream and over here on the lower left. So I think that's good to see. I think also, I do agree this area has a lot of impervious space. So longer term, we'll have a much bigger tree canopy given the 384 trees that are being planted. And even to start with, if each one is only 10 square feet, we'll pick up 3,800, square feet of canopy immediately. So I am pleasantly surprised to see that. Can you talk us through?
Yeah, and to that point, just to piggyback on that just a little bit, and some of the points you've just made are not kind of by accident. When this plan was conceived, there were definitely suggestions to take more access from outside, to bring driveways in, and this applicant fought that in order to specifically preserve those trees around the site, especially down in the corner, kind of the bottom left side of that plan. There was a real kind of resistance to bring those trees down, to either put driveways in, additional lots on that corner. They've gotten kind of buy-in from the Board of Commissioners to keep an existing kind of path that weaves through those trees rather than take them down to put kind of a continuation of the sidewalk. They're going to bring that sidewalk up and bring it through in a more natural way. So they definitely, this applicant was sensitive to the significance of those perimeter trees and to keeping them. And then again, getting away from the idea that the property is a big open space with significant amount of impervious coverage. They saw it as an opportunity to really have significant plantings that over time will create a very dense and significant tree planting scheme and tree cover.
So can you talk us through it all? The lower left-hand corner, site 14 and 15, and like why, I don't know if you have an overlay that shows the trees that are being removed in that area versus where the new existing houses and driveways are, and if you can talk us through why they have to be positioned that way. But what we're looking for, were there other options considered in order to
absolutely
save the heritage
absolutely
trees?
We've been working on this. Rob Lambert and his team and our team have been working on this, trying to come up with a better way of doing this. But as Rob explained initially, with the zoning and the space that you need between the houses, with the zoning, and with us having to avoid these man-made slopes, this is what we've had to do, it's just the reality of where we are. So Rob's team has done a tremendous job minimizing the number of additional trees that we've had to take out. I mean, I'm trying to look at all there are positives to this. The positives are we're further away from the stream. We do have the opportunity with the space to plant more trees. So there are benefits to this plan. The plants that we're putting in are all native apart from some of the evergreens. So there's some great aspects to this plan. And so it's not all bad. We are taking down those additional trees, but
Jonathan, excuse me for interrupting, but you guys have done a great job. I think what I was understanding Eileen's question to be is 14 and 15, could they be moved more to the right? And I'm understanding that that's not possible, or is that true?
No, I'll chime in on that one, Jonathan. The 14 and 15, the location of those are dictated by the slopes that were made. They're man-made slopes. They just happen to be built before 1979, right? When the ordinance passed. And so we were unable to get relief to disturb those slopes, right? It sounds silly from your perspective that we can't disturb this man-made slope, but it is a zoning regulation that we were unable to get relief from. And so that really then dictates where we can build both of those. And both of those houses got pushed toward Eagle Road because of the man-made slopes.
Yeah, two of the zones of steep slopes that really have made it difficult for us to disturb less trees are, I'm sorry, these two zones that I just marked out in red. There's a steep slope here where my cursor is hovering, and another steep slope here, which are really forcing the driveways to meet Radnor Street Road the way that they do, and forcing the buildings to
and just the
land
other
where they
steep
do.
slope is basically where it says 4QA by 15. There's a band of steep slopes that runs right along, it's like next to a set of steps and a driveway, but it's a slope that we have to avoid right where it says 4QA and AS, between that one tree that you have there. So right in there is another band of slopes that wraps around that we can't touch that. And so you start, we have to meet all the requirements, and these start boxing you in on our flexibility.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Well, just a question then. What if the driveway didn't come off of the main road for site 14 and 15 and instead came off of the interior road, would we be able to save any trees?
I don't believe so.
Was it an option that was looked at?
We did look at that option. Looking here, I don't think that relocating the driveway, if you came off of the shared driveway off the cul-de-sac, I don't believe that saved any trees.
Rob, here, this is Patrick Spellman. Correct, we did look at it. We had a driveway coming off the cul-de-sac, off the Beach Tree extension to lot 14 and 15. They didn't really help us with the trees. It's the placement of the houses with respect to the steep slopes that are impacting the trees. The driveways is almost incidental.
Okay. Do you want to tell us, we've heard, hey, this is a great plan. So do you want to tell us about the 384 trees that you are planting? It would be good to understand how many are a large canopy.
We've got that on the table.
Okay.
So you can see there on the table, we've got, there's a combination. There's large canopy trees that are associated with the street trees. That hasn't changed from the plan you saw first off. The number that's changed is the 158 canopy trees that are replacement for the trees that we're removing on the site. That number's increased. So the total number, along with the evergreen flowering, is at the 307, and the total number of trees is the 384, along with the street trees. And then above that, you've got the plant list of the plants that we're using.
Eileen, you had asked about doing an overlay.
Yeah.
If I could steal the screen real quick. And it looks like there's a couple gaps that I'd like to talk through if everyone doesn't mind. So give me 1 second.
Oh, before we do that, just one more thing to add. We do have a number of transplants that we are incorporating into this plan too. So the trees you see with a T, these are trees that have been transplanted from along Walnut Avenue. You can kind of see them lightly on the plan here. And we're moving these to the perimeter where they can be safely transplanted without disturbance during construction. So there's a lot of effort there as well in terms of trying to preserve trees and take advantage of good trees that are there that are of a size that could be moved with a tree spade.
And there are 41 of these trees that are being moved on the property.
That's right.
And they'll be done during dormancy. And their location, as Jesse said, is so that we can get them out the way construction. So it's the first thing that'll happen before construction starts.
Great. Can everyone see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay. So I just grabbed in Photoshop these two different screens to overlay. So right now, here's the removal, and we have the new home edition overlay. You'll see that it's exactly overlaid on top. If you match the bottom right road, bottom left tree line, I'll do this a couple times so you can see it's exact. So what I'm seeing is like this 42-inch oak, like that's marked as being removed, but the homes are over here, same with this 36-inch oak. So if you guys could speak to why these need to be removed when it looks like they're far away enough from the homes where they could be saved.
Well,
Patrick, do you want to talk to that, or should I? I can speak to that. So there's a pretty significant grade change going on through this site. So for home 14, for example, if you were to zoom in, there are, you'll see the contours through that area. And there's roughly 9 or 10 feet of grade change occurring just across the width of that building. So the building itself is being cut into the hillside. It's kind of, there's grading, around that building that's really carving into that hill.
Pretty
So we
much like
explored.
It's pretty much like the first project that you saw where trees had to come up because of grading for stormwater and grading. It's the same situation we have here.
Right. Yeah. So we explored an attempt to save those trees. It would require walls of 6 to 10 feet tall around those trees in order to preserve them. And we've weighed the pros and cons of that. It felt like something that it may be difficult to promise at this stage, but it's definitely something that we've considered.
It's also something we've seen a lot of situations where you're building a wall close to an existing tree, and you're cutting off major roots and major feeder roots and taking away half the tree's ability to live, and the tree dies 4 or 5 years later because it just goes into straight decline.
What about this 40-inch spruce down here?
It's right next to a building, and that I think was a tree that was on the list to be removed when we first came to you, and was approved as part of.
Right, but with different plans.
I don't think Rob can talk to whether 13 has changed much, but I think
13 changed slightly, but not substantively.
Yeah, I think once you excavate for the foundation of that building, we're into the root zone of that tree.
Yeah.
Sorry, Eileen.
No, that's okay. I was going to say that I like Seth's line of thinking and questioning, because near 14, just down from that, you can see a large 30 and I think 42-inch oak, and they look pretty far away from the house, and they're right where you're going to plant new. It's right where you're going to plant new trees. So why can't we just preserve the trees that are there?
Yeah, I'm sorry to interject, Eileen, but I mean, we've been through this plan with site engineering. It's not a flat site. We've got to do grading work, and with that grading work, there is a loss of trees, and some of the ones that we're addressing now were proposed to be removed in the first scheme. So we were highlighting the additional ones, which Jesse did before, which are further up in the corner of the screen that you're looking at right now. We've gone through many editions of this plan just to try and reduce the number of trees to be removed. And I'm a landscape architect. I love trees. I don't want to be taking trees down, but honestly, this is the best that we can do within the parameters that have been set by zoning and by the lot sizes that we have to go to. But saying that, I still think it's a great plan, and we are planting a lot of trees here. We've reduced the number of lots. We've got more opportunities to put more plants in, and we're further away from the stream. So there's some real positive aspects to this plan.
Can you speak to the number of trees that you're planting, the 384 versus the number required?
It's the number that's required, yes.
Oh, so it's exact. Okay.
Yes. But I was saying that we've got the opportunity because of the larger lots to actually fit them on the site. Sometimes you can't do that.
Right.
And they have to go somewhere else.
So if I may ask, Jonathan, you had said that you could possibly install the larger diameter trees around the cul-de-sac.
Yeah,
So
I think we can do a few trees up there to increase the size of them. Yeah.
So I'm counting roughly 10 trees around the bulb, if you will. So those 10 trees would then become the 4-inch diameter trees.
I think that would be okay. Yes.
Thank you.
And Jonathan, the large canopy trees, how many are you planting versus the number required?
I'm sorry, I missed that.
For the large canopy trees, how many are you planting versus the number required?
We're planting what is required.
Is there, can you give me a reason why you wouldn't go above and beyond that? Because of course, what I'm looking for is, you know, canopy, shade tree canopy. So is there a reason that you can't change the balance and have more large canopy trees versus what's required and still keep inside your 384 total?
I think there's a number of reasons why we weren't doing that. I mean, we wanted to have some evergreens in the mix because of the neighbors. You know, we got support from the neighbors for screening backyards. You know, that was very much something that everybody approved of. We like having canopy and sub-canopy trees. I think it makes for a more diverse planting. You know, it's I think beneficial for wildlife to have different sized trees. So I think that it makes for a better design to have that mix.
And can you speak to the large canopy trees that you are planting? What types they are and where they are?
Well, the canopy trees are the dark green, the lighter green, larger circles. There's a substantial number of oak trees. We're using white oak and willow oak that are more resistant to the prevalent oak diseases that are in the area. We've got native sycamores on the list, which is a very large shade tree. There are river birch, which is an incredibly fast growing shade tree. I don't have
red maples
red
and sugar
maples
maples as well,
sugar
and
maples.
sweet gum also.
And sweet gum,
yes.
yeah.
So
it's going to be you know, a beautiful place to be. It's going to have great fall color. It's going to have tons of wildlife because we've got all of these oak trees. So you know, I think it's a great plan. I think the fact that the client is willing to transplant these trees is also a great thing, and it's going to be impactful in terms of screening and impact.
Okay, good. Are there questions from others on the shade tree committee? Maybe we just go one at a time. James?
Sure. I just did a brief look at the compensatory trees. The list looks great. Everything adds up there, and I think we should. The way they did this plan, they have a table for the compensatory trees. Then they have a table for the street trees required, which we don't always see. I think that's a great idea, and that, you know, we should try to work that into the plans for next, you know, for future plans that come to us. It makes it a lot easier. It was tough with the last design we had. There was no plan, I don't think, for those street trees. I think the plan looks great. I was looking on Google Earth, and it looks horrible, the existing conditions. I think this is going to be, I know we're taking a lot of trees down, but there's, I think, close to 100 oak trees. Within 10 years, we're going to have a decent canopy. it's going to grow in, and a lot of those trees, like Jonathan was saying, the maple tree, the 60-inch or 72-inch, that's probably going to be gone in 10 or 15 years anyway. So I think for what's there now and for what they're proposing, I think it's very beneficial for the township canopy in the next 10 to 30 years. So I think that's great. The other thing, with the larger tree caliper sizes, for some trees, I think that's a great idea. If we did around that cul-de-sac, we have the sweet gum, and it looks like Nissa, or is there Nissas in there?
Yeah,
I
there's
just,
Nissa, yeah.
yeah, I just don't know if that would be the best choice to go with a large caliper tree there.
Yeah, we can certainly work with you on, selecting the species that would be better to size up. I
Yeah,
understand.
I think you and John Hosbeck would probably be the ones you guys could do that. Another thing I would suggest, and maybe even, I mean, this is at a greater expense to the developer, but if there's some way you guys could send, I don't know if this is going to be like a association or something, but there's so many trees here. And the problem with a lot of new trees like this is the watering. And so maybe if there's something that could be set up, and this is just my own recommendation, not the shade tree, but something that can be put down that you could have some sort of watering schedule after these trees are done, planted, after the developer's gone, just to help save these trees that are going in, because there's what, 350 trees going in, something like that. That's a lot of watering.
So James, like an ongoing maintenance plan for the next 10 years after.
Yeah, I wouldn't even go that long. I'm just, depending on when they're planted. I mean, if you get 1 year of watering, I think we're in good shape. But whatever you guys think is best. But I think watering is going to be significant, and if there was some way you guys could relay that to the homeowners or to the association.
I think this, James, I think there's going to be an HOA, so that could be written into the HOA regs.
That's where I was going. It could be a required maintenance plan going forward with the HOA.
Yeah, and it'll be there. The HOA will have a watering plan, and it'll be part of their documents.
Yeah, because that's going to be the biggest problem is the watering. And if it gets watered, then 20 years from now, it's going to look beautiful. So that's a nice plan.
Just a reminder, folks, this is a land development plan. So once their project is completed, there's still a maintenance bond for 18 months. So watering aside, they'd still be required to come in and replace anything should that occur. We don't want to see that happen, but that is there. That is one of the safeguards of our land development ordinance and developers agreement.
Okay, great. Thanks, Steve. Seth, any comments?
No, I think, I really wanted to hit on what we just went through. It sounds like because of grading, everything was exhausted as far as options to save these trees. So very unfortunate that we're losing 25 heritage trees, but to James's point, if we start fresh and really nurture these trees, I think I'll be very happy to see the aerial Google Maps photo 10, 15 years from now. So I think it's an improvement.
Claire?
I agree. And I'm especially satisfied with seeing that some of the trees that are still remaining. So that makes me feel a little better that we still get to keep some of the canopy, and to improve the parking area and add trees there. I think it's going to be a big improvement to the overall site. I think it's a nice plan.
I think it's a great improvement to this chunk of land. I walked it the other day, and this is going to be pretty cool. I'm particularly impressed that you got the neighbors sold on this. I think that's huge. But I think you've done a great job.
Matt?
The neighbors are moving from one of the most blighted sites in Radnor to, I said it before, and it's still like, it's arboretum level. Choice of trees, arboretum level selection of placement of trees. And I compliment the applicants for continuing to forge forward after going through some strange zoning issues. So I'm much in favor of this.
Okay. Yeah, I must admit, I agree. I am impressed that at least along the perimeters, the trees are saved. I think in some ways we win. There's 2 less homes. The trees are all on this site. I agree with James long term. I think it will be a great investment. I think we will gain tremendous tree canopy. You know, and gaining 384 trees on this site, and especially given how the site is now with so much impervious area. I also appreciate the fact that the applicant is willing to at least take 10 of the trees and upsize them to 4 inches. I'm okay with if they choose the location for those trees. And the watering plan is huge because it is a big investment and we don't always have that, even with the trees that we plant. So that's great that it would be part of the HOA plan. So motion to approve.
One last thing, Eileen.
Yeah, of course. James.
Sorry, and I mentioned this at the last time they came before us, but if you guys, you're doing so many 41 transplants, and just a reminder, if you guys end up during construction, you can't store them very long, then, you know, I think everybody would agree that maybe contact the township and we could place them somewhere in the township, just so they won't die during the holding time. Or to keep a maintenance schedule with those as well. But I mean, you guys know that, but I think leave the invitation there to plant them around the township if you end up not using them. That's all.
Ian, do we have any public comment?
Yeah, we do have several
Yes, the
public
same.
comment. First public comments, James Higgins.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, James.
Thanks a lot for all the diligence and all the great questions. And developer, I mean, it is great to see all the additions of trees. I actually learned how to drive in that parking lot many years ago. So I'm glad to see it to go and to know that it's replaced with a lot of trees. I'm just wondering if I know you guys aren't going to say this, but where is the sense with the zoning board to say that man-made slopes are more important than 42-inch heritage trees? It doesn't seem to be a lot of cross-pollination between the initiatives of the Shade Tree Commission and zoning board on this issue. It doesn't make any sense to me.
James, I don't even remember in looking at the zoning board hearings, I don't even remember the zoning board bringing trees into the argument. It was as if this whole property that had nothing to do with being retreated. It was very strange.
What is the rationale? Like, is it a stormwater thing? What man-made hills? I mean, I know those hills. I used to go sledding on them actually. I don't get it. There seems to be a good faith effort by the developer. At least they come across as very sincere that they want to save as many as possible. And they're certainly planning a lot. It just doesn't make any sense how we value, mounds of dirt more than trees that have taken 100 years to grow and have an ecosystem built around them and wildlife that, as good as the intentions are with the saplings, they're not going to replace these heritage trees, and not to speak of the caterpillars and the microorganisms that are in those trees. It's upsetting to hear.
So Lisa, I know you're on. I don't know if you have any comments regarding the zoning board. That's a little bit out of our jurisdiction.
So, the zoning hearing board is a quasi judicial board, and they make their decisions based on the written law. So, you know, I can't begin to imagine. I did not, you know, usually the commissioners are encouraged not to participate in zoning hearing board and whatnot. So I don't know enough about their decision around this, but I will say that, you know, from my time on the board, steep slopes, that is something that is important to in land development. It is something that is debated not only, I think, by the zoning hearing board, but when the board is approving you know, land development, subdivision land development plans. So yeah, I can't really comment on their decision or their lack of consideration around the trees or not. It could be because it is, you know, they're following the laws around land development.
And I guess what we could do, James, I mean, minimally, we can raise it to the zoning board. My understanding is other townships differentiate between man-made and natural slopes. So we could certainly raise that to them.
Yeah, and I was just going to say as a follow-up, thank you, Commissioner Bobrowski. I would just say that, did they know that this was the choice at the time? Did the developer present, hey, if you're going to shoot this down over slopes, we're going to lose more heritage trees? Maybe they didn't know that and made the decision blindly. And they are allowed to make a variance to the law, from how I understand it, if there's a good reason to.
Right. So I can speak to we did present the plan. We did explain to them that by requiring us to, you know, to avoid the slopes, we would be having a significant impact on trees. Wow. And I think Commissioner Borowski is being a little bit too kind or not taking enough credit. The Board of Commissioners did review this plan, understood the significance of the trees, and actually went to our zoning hearing board in favor of our application. Basically, for the very questions you're asking, Mr. Higgins, the Board of Commissioners, they were sensitive to it. You know, Commissioner Borowski was sensitive to it, and they sent the solicitor to support our application. So the zoning hearing board was aware of the importance of the trees and what we were doing, and then ultimately made the decision they did.
Because as you know, the water management that, you know, the downside of moving slopes, I'm sure, has to do with rainwater, I'm guessing, but is there a knowledge base around the fact that mature trees have absolutely enormous root balls that soak in more water than any man-made system could ever manage, and certainly does more good than the good of a slope slowing down water flow down a hill. Anyway, doesn't make any sense to me.
Okay. Are there others that would like to comment?
Yes, the next public comments, Paul Vernisi.
Paul? Ian, maybe we go to the next person and we can come back to Paul.
Next comments, Gretchen Grobel.
Paul's there. He's just on mute.
Oh, hey, sorry
There
about
you go.
that. My bad. Hi, everybody. I don't really have any, I was going to ask the exact same question that Mr. Higgins asked. You know, what is the logic of trying to preserve mounds of dirt? So the question, you know, it was not really answered, but answered to the extent that anyone on this call can answer. So thanks. I guess I should lower my hand. Thank you.
Yeah, next comment, Gretchen Grobel.
Hi, everyone. So I'm with Radnor Conservancy, and I do have to voice my concern about the sheer number of trees slated for removal, including and especially the 25 heritage trees. 233 trees are up for removal at this proposed development, and less than a quarter of a mile away, 150 trees are proposed to be removed at a Fenimore Woods Park project. canopy destruction has been moving at a rapid rate in the township. And I want to make sure that Shade Tree Commission is doing all they can do to protect our heritage trees and the overall canopy within the township. I mean, is the Shade Tree Commission and the township looking at the big picture at all? And are we thinking about the future impacts of this canopy destruction? So, you know, those are questions that I would really like the township and the Shade Tree Commission to really think about. And I was curious, and it sounds like there is going to be an HOA here, but will these trees be protected within the HOA space? Would an individual homeowner be allowed to take out 5 trees per year? Or would they be protected within the HOA?
Frank, do you know? Are you able to answer that?
The individual homeowners,
Or
the
David,
trees
sorry.
can't be removed, obviously, during it. Yeah, during any of the initial planting period. And then the HOA documents themselves will protect the trees. So we will, in addition to the township's own ordinance, place protections against these plantings. Again, it's important for this applicant to see that these plantings mature and create the arboretum type environment that they're going for. So the applicant will place restrictions against tree removal in addition to those the township itself has.
Yeah, and I think, Gretchen, to your question about do we think of the future? I think we absolutely do. It is a shame that this site is right near Fenimore Woods, but I think even regardless of that, if they were on 2 different sides of the township, we would still have the same concern. And at least with Fenimore Woods, we have proposed that they keep a lot of the structures where they are so that they don't move them and have to take down trees unnecessarily. And that they keep that park more of a wooded, natural looking park versus, you know, recent parks that have been redone that look a little bit more man-made. So I think there we've made some progress. I think here, this site will look much more green than it is today. It will be much more green than it is today. And I think in the end, we'll have a larger tree canopy once the trees mature. We'd have to do a calculation to see where we land, you know, in year 1.
If I could add, Madam Chair.
Yeah.
So just for everybody to remember, no trees have been removed at Fenimore as of yet, right? Nothing's been removed. And there is a Fenimore Woods project meeting, public meeting. It's on the website. It's a Zoom meeting, Wednesday, June 23rd at 6:30 p.m. To discuss the project, the proposed project, the woods, whatever anybody has to bring up about Fenimore. So I just want everybody to understand that at this point, nothing has been removed, nothing is in motion to do so. And there is a public meeting to get everybody's input and hear what everybody has to say. So I hope everybody can get on, not just the Shade Tree Commission, but anybody who's listening. Thank you.
Yes,
So,
that's
and
great. Thanks for advertising.
Well, just to add to that, so that is a, you know, meeting of the Community Development Committee of the Board of Commissioners. So that is a committee of the whole. So all the commissioners will be there. And again, yeah, to echo Steve, I would definitely encourage anyone, everyone. I've heard from many people who have, you know, concerns about the plan and the project. So I would encourage anyone to get on and make sure that the commissioners, you know, we can hear your voices.
Yeah.
I'd also add that if you look at the satellite image right now, there's a big chunk of pavement there. There's never going to be any canopy there. And if there is, it's going to be invasive trees that are going to start growing through the cracks. And at some point, it's going to get mauled down somehow. The plan shows that it is a planting for the future. And there's going to be more canopy there in the future than there presently is. So, thank you.
Yeah, I would agree. And then Gretchen, just the last thing we could use your help with, because I know the Conservancy is so active and you do a great job giving away trees and getting commitments for people to plant trees. So for anybody listening, typically we have a annual planting, a fall planting, but truthfully, we have trouble finding homes for all of our trees. So for folks out there, we would very much welcome residents that are willing to help us regreen Wayne and accept the street tree, something that everyone can enjoy. So I'll just mention that as well. I guess Ian, I should go to you. Do we have more public comment?
We do. Next public comment is Sarah Pilling.
Good evening. This is Sarah Pilling of Garrett Hill, and I have on my climate chat tonight. I think this is a great plan. Certainly is an improvement over what's there. Gretchen has spoken to the need for increased canopy as climate change impacts us more and more and the temperature goes up. We all know the benefits of shade to lower the temperature, to act as a carbon sink, and to soak up water. Something that can't be done right now, but I want to put the bee in the bonnet of the shade tree, is there is increasingly a movement towards solar panels on roofs. And because I can see some of this, I think there's questionable how many of these homes could even have the option of having solar panels. So that's a two-pronged approach. One is shade tree, the other is the developer who's willing to make the investment, because we will be going more and more to alternative energy, and solar is a great one. I have solar panels on my roof, and my bill for my electricity in the month of May was $2.33. And I don't have a full roof. So that's just something I'd like Shade Tree to keep in mind. And also, last thing, is it smart to be planting sugar maples when by 2040, our weather's going to be on the same latitude as Arkansas? Sugar maples need cold. They need a long cold period, and we already have a very much too short winter. So I would question the use of sugar maple. It's a beautiful tree. I had one, it died. And it didn't have disease, it just died. But it's a question I would have to put sugar maples in a plan where you want these trees to last more than 20 years. Thank you for listening.
Thanks, Sarah. All very good points, green points. The sugar maple. Jonathan, do you want to address that?
We wanted a diversity in our planting. We can certainly change the quantities and put in other plants. There will be a native shade tree. We'd still like to keep some sugar maples because we're all about diversity.
Okay. Matt and I did go to a seminar just a few years back, and they did voice the concern about global warming, that we should be planting with that in mind.
Yeah, there's a lot of schools of thought on this, but we can. I think the big thing is diversity. Here we're getting more extremes. There's a lot of research into southern species, but we're also faced with cold winters. So you look at some of the southern species, and it's great for the warmer temperatures, but they also don't tolerate the extreme cold that we still are getting. So it's a fine line that we're running up against in terms of climate change, and keeping the diversity is key. But we can certainly look at at reducing the number of the sugar maples.
Eileen, I would add that Green Mountain, which they have picked, it's a really good choice. Either that or Fall Fiesta. And they do hold up to the heat pretty well. We plant a lot of Fall Fiesta and we've seen no problems with them for years. And we planted Green Mountain as well. So there's only 30 of them, I think I see on the plan. So I think it's a good choice.
Okay.
I would agree with the plan.
Okay, great. Thanks for commenting, James. Thanks, Jonathan. Ian, any other public comment?
Next public comment is Barbara Cross Blackney.
Yes, hi, thank you. I have been following this project for quite a while. I live in the 200 block of Walnut Avenue, so it's the block immediately adjacent to this site. And I am much happier with this plan with 2 fewer homes than the original plan. It allows for more total open space. And while I am a conservationist at heart and love trees as much as anyone, I think we always knew we were going to lose a good number of heritage trees with this development, and the trade-off for less density of the site, which has long served as open space for the neighborhood. The plantings that they plan to do of replacement trees and, more open space, fewer homes, which has an impact all of its own right there. Is a much preferable trade-off. And I am concerned about Fenimore Woods. I would certainly encourage everyone, as several other people have, to get involved there to preserve the overall canopy in our area. But I want to voice my support for this plan. Trees that do die eventually. Sadly, I had to take 2 down on my property a year ago and did replace them with 2 from Radnor Conservancy. Thank you very much. But I think we all need to keep that in mind. These heritage trees won't live forever. And this planting of canopy trees and other trees now will go a long way. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Barbara. Ian, anyone else?
Yeah, we have Cameron Azarana.
Hello there. Thank you all very much, because I just have very much appreciated the in-depth review and questions regarding all of the projects tonight. I have two questions really, and one is my familiarity with this Eastern property, as I'm connected with Eastern University, so I have watched over the years Eastern's attempts to develop the property, and that they've faced roadblocks against the neighbors at every turn. In fact, all of those canopy trees and the buffer that is on Walnut and Radnor Street Road was required of Eastern to be planted from the neighbors, and part of it was an effort to prevent Eastern from being able to develop that open space. So I definitely am appreciative of the fact that a lot of those plantings are going to be transplanted. So some of my initial question is a little bit of uncertainty of how the neighbors potentially played into the zoning decision that required the rezoning of the properties. Is that the case? I guess that's what I'm not clear about, is did the neighborhood input have anything to do with why the properties were, had to be rezoned? Would be one question. And then my second question is certainly connected to this property, but it also is kind of broadly based. Over the past couple of months, I've watched these meetings, and even tonight we heard of a heritage tree that was completely healthy that was not protected during a project and subsequently had to be taken down. We also know that at the Cumberland property, there also were 2 heritage trees that were perfectly healthy that were not protected and had to be taken down. So my question is, who's ultimately responsible for that, for these healthy heritage trees that were not intended to be removed, that ended up needing to be removed? And then is it not fair for us to consider that there ought to be a consequence that is a little bit greater than just having to then fulfill the ordinance? I know in the Cumberland property, I believe the township is taking up that responsibility. I'm not very familiar with that project, so I can't fully speak to the details, but it just seems to me that maybe we ought to be just stopping and saying, you know, why is it that we've now lost 3 heritage trees that were not supposed to come down? And then in looking in this project, are we sure that these trees are going to be protected? I also, final thought, agree very much with Mr. Higgins and Mr. Vernisi that it seems that the zoning commission definitely is not erring on the side of the trees. That if the trees that Seth pointed out and Eileen concurred are able to be saved, why are we not making that effort to try to save those large? But again, thank you for your thorough discussions.
Yeah, and Cameron, I just want to comment your point about there being a greater penalty than having to meet the compensatory requirements if they lose a heritage tree because they did not protect it as promised. We're updating the ordinance right now, so that's actually something we can consider in implementing. So thank you for mentioning that.
Madam Chair, if I could just discuss, the Cumberland project was a stormwater project, and it's a very linear project. So we have a resident that gets flooded, and there is a balance, I guess, that has to be struck. In this linear project, there was a point A and a point B that we had to connect to. No ability to go around, so to speak, or limited ability to go around. So unfortunately, and we don't take it lightly, that those trees had to come down. We actually had them being saved on the plan, but when actual field conditions, when we saw the actual field conditions, we knew for the betterment, we had to take them down. But that's a situation where a gentleman, you know, it's going to be flood water in his house, or the pipe doesn't go in. So it's not an easy choice. It's not something we do lightly. And again, we actually showed them being saved on the plans, but when it came time to it in the field, we could not. So I just wanted to add that in because I know Cameron said she didn't have much background on that, and that's what that project is.
Yeah,
Well,
and I'll just chime in on Steve's. That is a project in my ward, and yeah, that project actually is saving 2 homes that get completely flooded. So it is a difficult decision. I am a huge fan and such a fan of the work that the Shade Tree Commission does to save and preserve our trees, but sometimes it is a difficult decision, and so far so good on that project and for those neighbors.
Just to follow up, I fully support that as well. I live on Willow Avenue, so we are extremely sensitive to flooding. I guess it's more just a question of why it was deemed that the trees would be saved and then they were not. And I think same with the Ivy project, that somehow the root systems ended up being infringed upon, because I think if Shade Tree is being presented plans and then approving them based on the information they're getting, and then these projects are coming back and saying, I mean, honestly, it was referred to as a minor oversight, quite frankly, at Cumberland. I don't consider 2 heritage trees a minor oversight. If they were originally presented and it was decided that they needed to come down, by all means, I'm not one to pass that judgment for somebody in their home and whether their basement fills with water. So I think
it's just so you know, it wasn't an oversight. They were shown on the plans. We knew the pipe had to go by there. Our hope was that we wouldn't affect the roots. there's at one point, you're not sure until you see the width of the trench, the depth of the trench, the pipe going in. And that's when the decision had to be made. So we did not wish to do so. We were hoping they could stay, not an oversight. Maybe you might think it's more wishful thinking. We tried to, but we could not. Like I said, we don't take these decisions lightly whatsoever. We look at all, and the company we use for the design is known for being very green, and that's one of the reasons we use them.
And those trees are going to be replaced. We're just waiting for the neighbors to decide what trees
Right,
they
they're gonna
want,
get
correct?
two. There's room for two, and then others will be replaced, placed at the discretion of the Shade Tree Commission.
Okay. Thanks, Steve. Thanks, Lisa. Thank you, Cameron. Ian, any other comment? Any other public comment?
Yes, I have James Higgins once again.
Actually, will it be, I don't want to hold up this particular project, so I just have a comment during, I guess, new business, if that's possible.
Okay, good to know. Okay, so Ian, any other public comment?
It's the last public comment I'm seeing.
Okay, great. So thank you, everybody. I know this has been, I appreciate people just being so passionate about trees and willing to take their lovely June evening and spend it with us and share their opinions and thoughts. It means a lot. And as you can see, we're vested in this. We've had a very healthy conversation for almost 2 hours. So I appreciate everybody's patience. I do think it's now time to put a motion forward to approve, as is, with the agreement that the applicant will size up at least 10 of the trees from 2.5 inches to 4 inches, and our understanding of the biodiversity, that is acceptable and healthy, and that watering will be covered via an HOA plan, and that via the HOA plan, it will protect the trees and therefore protect the investment from, let's say, a resident who may want to remove them. So given all that, I put forward a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, great. So we approved that. So Seth, I'm going to hand the agenda back to you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Eileen.
No, thank you.
All right. So I think that takes us through all of the new grading permits. So tree removal without approval clearing permits. We have 400 Yorkshire and 815 Parks Run. Steve or John, you want to speak to those at all?
So Steve, I'll take it. So we had two unauthorized removals of trees on both these lots, 400 Yorkshire, 815 Parks Run. We are still waiting for information. Ms. Sherwin sent a request to these folks asking for certain line items that I requested, and we are hoping to have that in within the next week or so.
Great. Thank you, John. All right. Violation notices, none at this time.
Not yet.
Not yet. Old business. I don't think, obviously we have ordinance updates to talk through under new business, which kind of falls under old business too, but does anyone have any other old business outside of the fall planting and the ordinance update that they want to speak through? Nothing? All right. So fall planting, I do have a small update. So we got final numbers from Bob Tate. So the money left in the shade tree fund as it stands right now is $5,600. Now that of course doesn't contain future funds coming from any violations or in lieu of. And then also, Steve, Mr. Norsini, over the past couple shade tree commissions, we've been adding trees to our tree bank. So we have to keep that in mind too. But it looks like, at this time, we have very limited funds to even pull off a full fall planting. Now, of course, the other consideration here is the Conservancy makes a very generous donation every year that usually is in the fall time. But of course, that's not necessarily guaranteed.
And Chanticleer as well, right?
And Chanticleer, correct, yep. So I think, we still need to do a little bit of thinking here, but we just wanted to present that information and just let everybody know. So John, I know you were talking about donations, and there is a desire for that potentially.
Absolutely.
Obviously, our communication flyer that we were planning, the last thing we want to do is exhaust the last of our funds for a communication. So I think, we're going to have to sit on this for a little bit and figure it out. But
Seth,
yes,
in addition, we can get grants from the Philadelphia, or the Pennsylvania Horticultural Society. They'll be having a fall tree giveaway. It's $35 to start and maxes out at $50 a tree. The rest of it, of course, being donated. So there's no upper limit, to my knowledge, on the number of trees we can get from PHS.
that's great. Yeah, so I think, Frank, to your point, we're going to have to get creative and find some alternatives here. And I think the best we can do is just socialize this need of funds, and we'll figure it out. But that's where we are right now.
Hey, Seth, if I could add, I know it's late, it'll be quick. So we have a public information officer, Molly Gallagher, and she does a fantastic job at putting out all types of information on various forms of social media. So I fully understand you don't want to use the majority of your budget on the mailer, but absolutely, I would talk to the manager, and I'm sure he would be fine with the public information officer working with Shade Tree to put out various things that way. So
Sure.
it's,
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
all electronic, and it's different than just we're going to post this on the website, right? So it's Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff, as well as press releases. So if you want to do that, and get something together, I could put you in touch with Molly, or we could all, do a 10-minute meeting just to go over a few things, and then you guys could take it from there. But I just want to make sure the Shade Tree Commission knows we do have an expert in this, and she does a great job and would be, I'm sure, willing to help.
Definitely. Thank you, Steve, for that.
Can I just so Seth, that I thought the flyer you guys have put together was so nice. Can you share, and I know Steve mentioned Molly will help, I would love to have that as a JPEG, and I would put it in my, commissioner newsletter. And I'm sure many of my board colleagues will as well. I just put information in about the shade tree and the shade tree ordinance in my newsletter 2 newsletters ago. I think the more we can push it out there, the better. So that would be fantastic. I thought the flyer looked so nice. So
Yeah, we can definitely do that. We need to seek one more final approval from all of us, and then I think we can get that out to the commissioners, and then also, get that out through Molly. So definitely.
And just one other quick thing for you guys to think about as you plan the fall planting. I know it came before the shade tree. I don't know if it was the last meeting or the meeting before, someone who had gotten a tree and then they wanted it removed. And then subsequently, like the next day, I had a resident reach out to me, and I thought it was actually the same case, but it wasn't. So, but they had I think a sycamore planted from maybe 2 years ago. And then they were told that it was going to be too big for their yard, end up being too big, and it was planted too close to their water line, and they were, their landscaper was concerned that there would be a problem. So I just wonder if there's a way, when we're giving out these trees, that people can have like a clear sense of, if when you put out what trees are available, if you put like this is going to be a big tree or this is going to be a small tree, or, just so people have a better sense of what they're kind of getting into. So then we're not having to go, because like right now, we're looking at it to see if, and the township will go remove it, like the one that you guys, I think, talked about at the last meeting, and replant it somewhere else, hopefully. But, if there's something like that, just so people have a little more awareness.
Yeah, I agree, Lisa. I know, John puts together a sheet, and then all seasons does a great job as much as they can to work with the homeowners to put the trees in the ground at the appropriate spot. But, the more we can do, the better. So we'll definitely think about that for this fall. All right. So, obviously we want to get an order in as soon as we can, but given the current state of affairs, we kind of have an unknown in front of us. So we're just going to have to work through this, and we'll do the best we can. All right. Any other questions or comments on the fall planning? Nothing. All right. Ordinance update. I know it's late. My proposal is we table this for now and discuss it at our next meeting.
I'll second that.
Sounds good. I know this is important, but I don't think it's important enough to schedule an interim meeting. So everyone aligned there?
Yep.
All right, sounds good. Hazardous trees. So we have 152 Bidoff Road and 10 Forest Road. John or Steve, do you want to talk through these at all?
I mean, the actual applications are up in front of us. One was John B. Warden Company. That is the Forest Road. It's a tall poplar that is actually causing infrastructure damage, both the foundation and also the sidewalk and driveway there. So obviously any construction activity that goes forth to correct these issues or to mitigate the damage to the infrastructure will cause harm to this tree.
Fair enough.
Yep. And obviously you can see the next one is pretty self-explanatory.
Completely dead. All right.
Can that come back to life, John?
We're going to try to add some mycorrhizae in, Mr. James.
Okay, that would be good. Thanks.
Have you told the resident that it requires very little maintenance?
We did. We did. No leaf cleanup.
And it's at its maximum height.
Correct.
That's right. Turn it into wood chips and make a trail.
If anyone can bring it back to life, you guys can. Come on.
I will say for those listening on the line still, that I myself, we accepted 60 yards of wood chips and made a nice little trail around our yard. So definitely for those that are cutting trees down in their own yards, think about reusing the wood chips.
Absolutely.
Nice. There you go. Can I one more thing, Seth?
Yeah.
Well, Lisa is here. I'm going to put her on the spot, and I'm going to forget next meeting. Is zoning board, when it came to the Eastern project, they talked about the steep slopes and why did the zoning do this? They do it, I assume, because it's law. Since you're a legislator, is there any way, not to put you on the spot here, but bring it back to the Board of Commissioners and say, hey, let's any steep slopes that are man-made that are going to cause harm to a heritage tree, let's change that law so it doesn't happen again.
So, we're always looking for ways to improve and enhance, our ordinances and the land planning. I'm going to defer. I'm certainly not an expert on that, and I don't know where else the the provision for that they used exists and where it might be helpful in some cases. So, but and Steve, and I don't want to put Steve on the spot, but
no, let me chime in real quick. So it is very, very common in everybody's land use plan to prohibit development on steep slopes to a certain degree, might be, and that's a planning standpoint, but in most everybody's zoning ordinance that does occur. They were written that way regarding erosion, water quality, the whole 9 yards, that you don't want to disturb the steep slope because it could continue to erode. So our zoning ordinance, James, to your point, is older. And it is due, we have been discussing, with the commissioners at different times, at least mentioning it's due for an update. And that's, unfortunately, that is a lengthy process. There's the comprehensive plan has to get updated, and then the zoning ordinance. So it is an ordinance. So anything you do is an amendment to the ordinance. I fully understand what Mr. Higgins and yourself and other folks have talked about when it comes to losing a tree versus the steep slopes. But like the commissioner said, the zoning hearing board, and by no means am I speaking for them in any way, shape, or form. They're going by the rules they have for whatever reason. So all I would suggest is when if that's something we look at, we should look at it a little more broadly and see what other ordinances or what other items it could affect, as opposed to a reaction to what occurred. So I'm always a proponent of looking at the big picture, not saying that it shouldn't be changed or we shouldn't address it being changed, but to take a look at it in a bigger way, if that makes sense.
And we did just have a conversation. So the looking at the comprehensive plan is definitely on our radar. So that would be the first thing. And I would think that, and I've never been through that process, so I am certainly no expert, and I will definitely be learning a lot as we go along. But, that we might need to, look to include some things that are specific to the trees, as that is obviously such an important consideration for so many of our residents. And the last time the comprehensive plan was done, which Steve, remind me, it's definitely more than 10 years ago, because it's supposed to be up to.
It is long overdue. And
yeah,
Commissioner, you're spot on. So in the creation of that comprehensive plan, these sentiments can be included in there. Now, the comprehensive plan isn't law, it's a tool, it's a guide, but it's also something that the zoning ordinance is based off of. So all these things that we're talking about in development with regard to trees, whether they be heritage trees or smaller than heritage trees, those are things that can be parts of that development or part of the comprehensive plan regarding development in general and streetscapes and land use in general. So Commissioner is spot on.
Yeah, and that conversation, I think, will happen and incorporate, all of our boards and commissions who are interested in participating and being part of it, and, as well as residents. So identifying these things, and certainly trees are, a top priority. And I think the Board of Commissioners is, I know that, I know many of my colleagues are aware of that as well. Those are things that we will look to address and see how we can change and make, I think, our ordinances perhaps more friendly towards tree preservation.
Thank you.
Thank you all. All right, I think Mr. Higgins might be on the line. Ian, do we have any public participation?
Yeah, we do have Mr. Higgins.
Great.
Thanks, everybody. Don't be mad for me keeping you long. Well, it was a late night. I apologize.
No worries.
I didn't want to belabor the last project, but I just wanted to. The other reason I'm joining you tonight is because I wanted to speak to the ordinance. I know that's not on the agenda anymore, but if I could just have a minute of your time, just to encourage you to put some real teeth into the new ordinance. There's an environmental crisis in this country, and as Gretchen mentioned, there seems to be a pattern of some removal of heritage trees in this township, whether it's public or private space. And the crisis calls for all of us to be more stringent with not just suggestions, but with ordinances, with some more teeth. I don't know if there's a public appetite to have more private restrictions, but it's a no-brainer to have a zero tolerance for removal of heritage trees in public parks and public spaces, and even just trees over a certain diameter. It's just, I am afraid that we are seeing our township be turning into a Toll Brothers development, slowly but surely. That's my opinion. I love the intention of replacing with these smaller trees, but it does not, I mean, it's just not intellectually honest for someone who knows anything about ecology to say that we can replace an old oak tree or any heritage tree with a bunch of saplings. It's not fair, and it's not true, and it's going to hurt. It's not just about shade. It's about the ecological challenge we face as a country, as a world. I love the stressing of native plantings. You guys all, I mean, to be applauded, the time you spend pushing those things, and it's a must. But this is really more for the commissioners, I guess. My comments, they need to empower you guys more. There's just not enough barriers here. There are some speed bumps, but we need some roadblocks. We don't need just speed bumps. We need roadblocks. The comprehensive plan, land use plan, includes an entire section on reforestation of Radnor Township, and yet there's no money in the fall planting budget. There's something wrong here. I don't know if it's a values issue or what, but without more teeth in your ordinance, we're going to die a death by 1,000 cuts, because there's a lot of projects that just say, well, we just have 2 heritage, just 8, it's just 6 more, it's just 10 more. We keep adding those up. Yes, we can replant, but replanting, as has been mentioned tonight many times, takes a generation to catch up. And without a strong ordinance, we are going to end up with the township that looks nothing like Radnor, but also just we're going to add to the environmental devastation that's going on right now. And it is a crisis. I mean, it's getting worse every year, and you guys need to be empowered. And I thank you for your love and care for trees. And, there are a lot of people in this township who are with you, and we intend to get more involved. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. All right, Ian, any other comment?
I am not seeing any other public comment.
All right, well, that calls the meeting to an end. Everyone go grab a cocktail and get some sleep.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Good night,
care,
everyone.
guys.
Thank you very much.
Night.
Good night, everybody.
night.
Thank
Bye,
you.
good night.